It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Hey everybody! So in the last video about Mixtape, remember when I said this? Funny thing I saw while I was browsing some embarrassing reviews of this game was this thumbnail from Smash AT. Apparently he thinks that the game is Astroturfed, and he isn't the only one. I saw some people say the same type of thing earlier on social media, speculating that maybe, just maybe, all this hype and attention and 10s out of 10s were Astroturfed. But honestly, I don't think they are, fellas. I think the people who played this game and gave it a 10 and won't shut up about it online are feeling genuinely this good about the game. They are genuinely enamored because, I don't know, the game got them by the balls.
Marathon's got me by the balls.
Their brains are small, and somehow, after years and years of working in the games industry, they are still gullible enough to fall for the bare minimum. Yeah, well, it turns out that I haven't been more wrong about anything else in my entire life. So as it turns out, Mixtape actually has a whole lot more going on in the background. My reasoning as to why I didn't think it was Astroturfed is thanks to something I'll mention later, and that is also present in the video if you haven't watched it yet. First though, let's get into how crazy this Mixtape rabbit hole gets, because it isn't even that it is indeed one of the most Astroturfed games the industry has ever seen, but it is done to an especially disgusting degree. And there's also a very funny angle to it that we'll get into a little bit later. Mixtape represents one of the sleaziest appropriations of the indie game space that I've ever seen, and one that literally puts that side of the industry in a worse place. It's to the point where now we've been seeing a little too many instances where assholes with a lot of money are co-opting the indie space to make highly marketed and highly funded productions disguising themselves as indie to not only earn our trust and goodwill, but also be trailblazers in the space and lead by example. You know, to be things that other indie teams look at and replicate. In other words, they are doing exactly what was done with the AAA space, which has resulted in it losing much of its DNA and identity that it used to have like 15 years ago. In the last video, I focused on two main things. Number one, games industry and legacy media hypocrisy in how they cover games, how they rate games, and how ideology governs what games that they promote and celebrate and what games they demonize for no reason. And number two, Mixtape itself as a game. I went through some of the content in it and explained why it's so vapid, so devoid of depth or any genuine heart, and therefore totally overrated, with 9s and 10s across the board, while riding on the coattails of a soundtrack that it doesn't even own. You can basically replicate Mixtape by creating your own playlist of oldie songs on YouTube and then doing a goddamn slideshow with it. I compared it to other games and broke apart some ridiculous points in IGN's glowing review and recommendation, such as for example how the reviewer states that as a narrative-driven game, What Remains of Edith Finch is a better game than Mixtape, and yet Edith Finch scored an 8 while Mixtape scores a 10. If you guys haven't watched that video yet, feel free to check it out for further context and entertainment. But as for this video, we'll be diving into what lies behind Mixtape and what turns out to be the real reason for all these glowing reviews. So are you guys ready? Get your cheesecake ice cream ready, cause this is gonna be a bumpy ride. Mixtape was published by Annapurna Interactive. They are a noteworthy publisher of smaller yet somewhat popular games because they usually deliver the unusual original experiences that perfectly fit into certain niche crowds, which I was actually a part of. I can't say I liked all their games they put out, in fact I disliked most of them, but there were some that I really enjoyed, like What Remains of Edith Finch, Donut County, Outer Wilds, Journey, 12 Minutes, and Stray. Over time, I think their games have been getting worse and much more uninteresting, and while looking into this story I found out why. And I'm also kinda baffled that it didn't dawn on me that Mixtape is an Annapurna game, like sometimes my dumbass gets Annapurna mixed up with Devolver Digital. But anyway, Annapurna Interactive should actually come to mind over something that went down recently, about a year and a half ago. You guys might have even heard of it, though you probably can't place it. Remember a story from back in 2024 of a major industry shakeup where overnight a publisher lost its entire staff? Yup. That was Annapurna Interactive. In September of 2024, their entire staff of around 25 people all resigned at the same time and abandoned the company after a deal fell short with their owner. That owner is Megan Ellison, who is none other than the daughter of Larry Ellison, the co-founder of Oracle and one of the world's richest people. This is where all the allegations are coming from in regards to this game being a Nepo baby's wet dream, by the way. Why some Annapurna games, despite being small, end up doing big marketing moves or containing content or actors that usually indie developers cannot afford. Well, turns out that having a owner with immensely deep pockets certainly helps, but it goes further than that. Basically, to condense this whole 2024 drama down, this owner, Megan Ellison, started to get more hands-on with the company after 2020. Apparently she used to mostly just be an owner in the background, but then something happened and she started getting more hands-on and changing some things around that the guy in charge at the time, whose name was Nathan Gary, plus their entire staff team did not like. And looking back now in hindsight, knowing this information kinda goes a long way to explain why Annapurna's games started getting weirder and staler. To a lot of you dudes in my audience, it probably blends together. You see movie slop or non-gamer games in everything that they put out without discernment. But for me, it's not that way. I generally do see value in many different types of games and genres. It's just that when you're giving me a game that is very light on gameplay, or in which the gameplay isn't a focus at all, then you better be giving me a top-tier story or premise. If you're failing to do that, you're just straight up making garbage that isn't worth anyone's time. And the most annoying thing that can happen is when one of those pieces of garbage releases and everyone is hyping it up because of vapid surface level theater kid nonsense that makes them feel good about appraising. That ends up influencing the industry. People take notice, people want to repeat success, so when something looks successful when it isn't, it's a big problem. When Megan Ellison started being hands-on, her ideas and goals for Annapurna that she started making moves on were things the people working there did not like. She was focusing in creating a transmedia kind of studio where storytelling is seamless across games, film, and TV. And by the way, the films and TV part come from her other company, Annapurna Pictures. Yeah, she has two. I mean shit, that I know of. For all I know, she might have another 10. Anyway, the goal was to keep making games that go hand in hand with movies and TV style shows and vice versa. In other words, she doesn't really care about the gaming medium as it is. She has her own vision and shit. She also sees herself as some kind of anti-industry rebel who exists to take that money of hers and give it to people and projects that she believes would otherwise not get funding, to tell original little stories that stray from the norm and that she likes. I have no idea what the fuck she's smoking, but if Mixtape serves as something, it serves as a symbol of everything that we've been constantly seeing over the past few years in gaming. There's nothing original about it. In fact, it's laughable that it gets compared to Life is Strange when Life is Strange is a goddamn 2015 game that spanned into a series of more games, of which there are like 6 now, plus another 2 separate ones that are of the same sort of genre but not in the same IP. Their names being Tell Me Why and Lost Records Bloom and Rage, and this is like games that I'm talking about. If we want to get into visual novels that exist in the indie space and the cozy space, there's even more of this stuff, and there's even small pieces of this kind of like quirky DNA in AAA projects that we get from time to time, like Dragon Age Veilguard. Some of the dialogue in that game, especially when it came to characters like Harding, may as well have been written by the people who wrote this game. I can tell a difference. If this is what constitutes as original stories that would never get funding anywhere else, I have a bridge to sell her. But anyway, so that was Megan's side. What about the other side of the 25 people who resigned overnight? Well, their goal was to separate Annapurna Interactive from the Annapurna Film and TV bullshit and instead rebrand it to Verset and just continue focusing on gaming as they used to. Clearly, the negotiations didn't go very well and every single goddamn staff member left along with their president at the time, Nathan Gary. You know things are fucked up when you leave with your boss. Anyway, since then she hired a co-founder of hers from before and has been slowly rebuilding Annapurna and leading it off into this Annapurna 2.0 vision of hers. We might even end up seeing some sort of theatrical release of, you know, a mixtape over here. It might happen, fellas. And this is all a result of that billionaire money. I mean, it just is what it is. On its own, this game would just not be able to go so far. Now let's talk about the studio behind the game. After establishing who Megan Ellison is and what she sees herself as, plus what her mission is with Annapurna, we can kinda have a better idea of what the studio that made Mixtape is like and how they got their funding in the first place. So the studio is called Beethoven and Dinosaur. They're based in Melbourne.
It's just something you got to do for the community, mate. It's like you look after your mates and your mates will always look after you.
There you go.
And are a very small team of just around 10 devs. When people on social media were first starting to accuse Mixtape of being an Astroturfed game because of being able to afford very costly press kits and advertisements and like anything that any other indie game would ever be able to afford, there were already people saying that actually no, they're not. It's just a really good game that was announced and marketed strategically by Annapurna and coming from a studio that already had one successful and popular prior launch. It's all cope, okay? It's all bullshit. The game was relatively unknown. I mean, sure, you may dig and find a couple of trailers featured at those little streaming showcases from companies like Sony, Xbox, and Nintendo or whatever, but it's just one amongst many. We didn't actually get any significant showcases, and the game just came out of nowhere and was suddenly the Long Dick Johnson of 2026.
What?
Yeah, let's just call a spade a spade. Now, their previous game was called Artful Escape. It's yet another game that is just kinda like this. I checked out some gameplay and it's like this 2.5D thing where you run around with a guitar and as you're running you're playing guitar riffs and the background interacts with it. Other times the backgrounds are just big set pieces and you just run across them playing guitar. Needless to say, fellas, this is one of those Annapurna games where I wondered what the fuck was the point and didn't buy. Of course, there's a story and there's like a whole thing about becoming an artist, you know, like a guitar legend or some shit like that. So there's some sequences with like dialogue and stuff, but again, I don't care. However, that sweet billionaire money shows itself once more where somehow this independent studio's very first game from this very tiny team in Australia is able to afford actors like Carl Weathers. Yes, that Carl Weathers, the one from Rocky, Predator, Happy Gilmore, etc. Plus Mark Strong, another very well-known actor, Jason Schwartzman, and even Lena Headey, aka Cersei f***ing Lannister. Totally natural casting for a first-timers indie game, fellas. There's absolutely nothing to see here. You may all return to your seats now. However, back when they made this game, maybe Annapurna didn't shell out as much money for the goodie bags and the press kits, so IGN only gave it an 8 out of 10. It's still way too high, man, I swear, bro. Anyway, whatever, I'll be moving on here. The point is, this game was not popular at all, dude. This shit had an all-time peak player count of 72. Dustborn had more than this, and that game was rank. Obviously, this sort of game probably does better on console, I assume, but still, with a fat chunk of the player base being on PC, I would say that the proportionality on consoles is about the same as this. So it's just another unknown game amongst many others. Mixtape's popularity, the way that they were able to advertise, the way that they were able to get their name everywhere, wasn't because of their reputation at all. It was because of what we're about to get into right now. So this is where the picture starts coming together. You got a studio whose last game flopped, I'm sorry, it just is what it is. No, the truth is, I don't have any material to prove this, I don't have any sales numbers, I don't have their corporate report from 2022. All I got is common sense. If you make a game and you got Cersei Lannister and fucking Apollo Creed in the cast, and then that game gets about as many players as a paint drying competition at the county fair, then I think it's pretty safe to say that your shit did not pay for itself. But regardless of it paying for itself or not, the studio still comes back a whopping 5 years later and releases a brand new game, Mixtape, which this time around doesn't feature any Hollywood actors. Instead, it features a bunch of SAG-AFTRA soy boys, which honestly can sometimes be even more expensive. But more importantly than that, it features a bunch of licensed music from massively popular artists. As usual, you can't beat the internet when it gets a whiff of something shady, so some people began looking into just how expensive this kind of music can be for a game, and we're talking about something that could go over $100,000 just for licensing. There are some songs could go up to like $50,000, so this is even a conservative estimate. And remember, as we went over in the last video, the soundtrack is pulling a massive amount of weight in this game, and honestly the developer isn't even hiding that. In fact, they stated that the soundtrack is the game. They first began developing the game by making a song list, and then they wrote and designed everything else around it. It kind of ends up explaining a lot. Again, for a tiny 10-person studio from Australia whose first game was a footnote 5 years ago that nobody knows, it boggles the mind how this team would have the spaghetti necessary to make this happen. Now, to be fair, there's probably inside dealings that these studios have with one another, which maybe lower the price on big licensing agreements, but regardless, the information is there. And ain't nobody giving anybody else anything for free, unless they're doing it as a favor for someone whose father might be very influential.
Here comes the money.
Here we go.
But anyway, I digress, and we have to move on now to the next thing because it doesn't stop there. We gotta talk about the goodie bags, the press kits, the swag.
Swag. Stuff we all get.
Because all this swag might just help you understand why so many game journalists, good boy content creators, and shilling social media accounts are glazing and promoting this game as if it was the third coming of Half-Life. I'm gonna show you guys a video from a social media account called Blue Thunder. I'll just let it play, but I'll replace the music because it's probably more licensed crap and you know how it is with copyright, so enjoy whatever soundtrack I decide to play on top of it. Ain't that nice, fellas? Huh? Ain't that lovely? Hey, listen, hear me out for a second. Just hear me out for a second, fella. Hear me out on this one.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club.
Huh? Isn't it nice to work in the industry? To be in the club? I mean, look at this shit. You get to just sit on your balls at home, having a good time, and these companies send you entire games for you to shill for, plus entire goodie bags so you can set up in your office or your room or whatever and look like an official gaming content creator. In the case of Mixtape here, a indie game from a small 10-person team from Australia, somehow they were able to afford to put together a press kit packed with swag. Stuff we all get, except not all, just them. You ain't getting shit, boys. You got the posters, you got the stickers, you got a whole CD themed box for the game or the soundtrack, you got some 90s themed shit like bubblegum packs, hacky sacks or whatever, candy, super detailed licensed little tech skateboards, bunch of other knickknacks, a high quality replica set of retro headphones, same as the protagonist uses and working by the way, plus a whole ass fully functioning retro CD player. All of this for free and brought to your doorstep. Boy oh boy does it fucking pay to be a shill. But oh ho ho, just you wait until you're the one being called a grifter for fucking putting out an unpaid opinion on the internet. This guy started getting his ass called out on this, and his response was to expose himself and just how broken this industry is. Here's what he had to say. I quite literally did not say a single solitary word or judgment on the game. I shilled for nothing. I posted a video about the objectively cool and unique package that they sent me. Why did they send you the package, dumbass? This explains the high review scores. I did not review it, LMAO. Y'all got a goodie bag, so you gave it a higher review, fucking lowlives. Didn't review it, slob. You really have to bow down in respect to the utter brain-dead 36 IQ move that this moron is pulling here. I am genuinely in a state of shock and awe at it. Bro is literally putting it out there that he's getting paid and sent extremely expensive packages for nothing. Well, nothing except for the signal boosting, that is. It just goes to show how the grift goes in these industries. See, it used to be once upon a time that in order for you to, get some review codes, you had to be a content creator. You didn't just get free copies to review a game. You had to be a content creator with actually a nice stack of views. This is obviously very different now. I've shown before on the channel how there's people with like 100 subscribers who are already getting free game keys to play whatever they want to like 4 viewers. But this is a whole new level. Sending shit out for signal boosting from weird ass accounts like these who get hundreds of millions of views per month and nobody even knows who they are. Like shit, by all means, if that's just me having a brain fart and you guys know who this is, then I'll take the L. But for the life of me, I have never heard of him, and yet, here he is. And that's precisely why he gets free shit. It's just so that he can make these posts signal boosting games and creating this fake ass perception of popularity for the game. Hopefully now you understand why I said that I've never been more wrong about anything in my life. It's because when I saw IGN's review, and a couple of others from some other major publications, writing about Mixtape, I thought it was genuinely a bunch of tourist game journos losing their composure at a game made to manipulate people's emotions through a high focus on its soundtrack and another on manufacturing this feeling of nostalgia for simpler, better times. I mean, usually the teenage years are associated with people's best years of their lives. And in many ways, I still believe that a lot of these game journos were swayed by this, because, like I said in my video, I recognize what the IGN reviewer was saying. I know that feeling exactly, the thing that Mixtape is trying to manufacture. It's just that Mixtape doesn't deserve that level of praise. It's all vapid, it's all bullshit. Feel free to check out the video. I'm not going to go over it again. It's why I call them weak-brained journos. It's like, it doesn't take much to impress them, it doesn't take, like, you make a video game, you get a little twist in there somewhere, or you play on their emotions and they just shit themselves. It's like they've been playing games for the last 5 minutes. Anyway, let's move on. Going down this rabbit hole now just shows how much money is being moved around in the background to not only hype this game up as more than what it is, which everyone notices by just playing it, but also the literal concept of astroturfing, which is to manufacture a fake fame and recognition about the game, you know what I'm saying? That's what accounts like this guy exist for. Just look at his bio. I highlight new games, big and small, over 4 million followers across socials, 100 million monthly views, social media influencer. This is what he does. He doesn't do reviews, he's just a billboard. His social media exists solely for people with money to pay him for visibility. It's basically just a marketing account. And the funny thing is that between a guy like this and a retard like Synth Potato or Mr. Pio, which I've talked about before on this channel, I actually much prefer this guy, because at least he's honest. I mean, he doesn't disclose what he's doing, which is a goddamn advertisement, and he definitely should. In fact, I think it's legally required for him to do so, or at least required as part of the X terms of service. But back to the topic. I would much prefer a guy like this because he's not bullshitting me about culture war cringe or whatever. At least I never saw him do so. What he is immediately present in his bio. He's a billboard. Meanwhile, accounts like Synth Potato and Mr. Pio will shill for the worst garbage this industry has to regurgitate while placing themselves as these unbiased connoisseurs and reviewers and content creators, when they're literally just the same fucking thing. But at the end of the day, this blue thunder tard ends up being just as pathetic by making cringe posts about it after the fact and playing victim over people accusing him of shilling or taking bribes when, oh no guys, I didn't take bribes because I didn't do a review. I just signal boosted their game and didn't disclose that it was an ad. Oi, get the f out of here. If I hear any more grifter crap this month while dudes like this literally don't even have to buy their own games or their own merch, they can just hang up the garbage companies send them to play act as a real fan, I'm going to crash out. So basically, here's the rub so far, fellas. The Nepo baby billionaire injects a shit ton of money into Annapurna Interactive to fund theater kid shit like Mixtape, not only into existence in gaming, but also into influencing culture by injecting even more of that sweet borrowed money into astroturfing it into the stars via game journalists, shell accounts on X, signal boosters bought and paid for with goodie bags, that are totally not the same as bribing or buying anyone off. Remember guys, if you ever want to send me something for me to shill for you, you can't just pay me, okay? Like you can't PayPal me the money or pay it through my coffee, link in the description by the way, like none of that. In order for you to get me to ethically shill for your garbage, all you gotta do is just send me your garbage with money shoved inside of it, you know what I mean? Then, when I'm unboxing your garbage towards the camera for all 31,000+ subscribers, and like $5,000 just happens to fall off the box, then it doesn't count as you guys bribing me anymore, because the money was in the box. I'm just unboxing something and oh hey, spare change rolled out. Now would you look at that, how did that get in there? So anyway, don't forget to check out this high quality garbage at www.totallynotgarbage.com. That's how it works, fellas, okay? That's how you gotta do it. If you wanna send me some shit for me to shill for you, it's gotta be done that way. You gotta learn. You gotta learn. Over here in Portugal, we have a saying, learn, because I'm not gonna be around forever to teach you, okay? So anyway, what the fuck was I talking about? Oh yeah, so Billie Jean pumps a bunch of money into her indie publishing business so that she can fund endless trash that she wants to see more of. Then, for some of them, she spends an additional amount of granola making sure the word spreads even more and that everybody's really happy and content and vibing. The previews come out and oh my god, the vibes are immaculate. Then when it finally releases, the reviews come out and it's a slew of 10s, which coupled together with the game's name being everywhere, praised by every outlet, and even the usual content creators, which are totally independent, guys, by the way, they're totally independent. Their opinions could never be sponsored by goodie bags and shit. Forget about it. 100% genuine. If you're on YouTube, you are 100% independent, guys. And man, I swear, dude, this it's just a really nice and big club, fellas. And man, do I wish that people woke the hell up a bit more and made this whole grift crash and burn. Like, it's clearly a problem. It's clearly breeding corruption and bias, but it just keeps on going. I mean, all that's really left now is for the Game of the Year nominations to come later this year. I guess we'll see what happens, huh? I'm already scattered as hell. Let's wrap this one up. At the end of it all, what happens? At the end of it all, what's the goal? That is the weirdest part. It's that I don't even know what Megan Ellison's ultimate goal is. Besides the stuff that she puts out there, I don't know much about anything else about her. It's not like she's even present in the industry all that much. But what definitely makes this worse is that at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter if the game underperforms. I mean, it's already underperforming. But the thing is, with the deep pockets of the company, nothing will change. Even if we say determinedly that yes, this game was indeed astroturfed and it's all a big shameless thing, what now? Well, I'll give you my personal take as to why I care and what I'd like to see change. Megan Ellison is a billionaire. She owns Annapurna, and if she wants to fund this kind of shit, I don't care. Let her. This whole news just broke out. It's a big controversy. Needless to say, next time that they try to pull the same kind of thing, it's going to get called out before 3 o'clock. People will remember, so for now that's enough. To know ahead of time, you know, to know that this is something that may happen because the industry allows it. As far as Annapurna goes, that's it. Again, her money, her call. If I was a billionaire, I'd be probably doing the same thing. I'd be finding a bunch of ugly ass dudes with amazing game ideas and I'd be giving them money. Like I'd be going to Tim Kaine, who recently talked about an idea that he never got to work on with his buddies at the time, which was an RPG that is set during an ongoing narrative involving time travel that changes the state of the world. So basically, I'd be going to Tim Kaine and I'd be giving him like $10 fucking million and telling him to go get his old mates and make that game happen and call me up if they need like another 10 million. Bada bing, bada boom. I'd call my company something like Greg Miller is a Soy Boy Studios. I don't know, something like that, right? And then, hell, I'd even run wacky experiments. Like I'd go to David Jaffe, one of the original creators of God of War, who currently looks like a homeless man, and I would give him $10 million and tell him to get out there and just make a new goddamn game. Whatever new game he wants to make, whatever sparks his mind. So as far as the billionaire goes, it is what it is. If she likes this kind of thing and she wants to keep funding it, it's fine. What I do hate about this story is how easy it is to astroturf a game because of the corruption going on in legacy games media and the influencer sphere. That's what I wish could be addressed. That's what I wish for the most, because that's where the major issues lie. If games like these can just be astroturfed to look like an insanely popular and profitable avenue that generates loads of eyes, clicks, and sales and is made to look genuine and natural, then it will undoubtedly result in the indie space getting co-opted into pushing for more of the same kind of thing, just like the AAA space is being used for. It doesn't even have to be strictly about politics, it can be mild, soft versions of that, like inclining up-and-coming studios to let go of certain ideas and concepts that go harder in trade for simpler, cozy game type of shit like this Mixtape game. Like imagine if Sandfall Games wanted to do a dark fantasy game next, but somebody comes up to them and goes, "Hey, you don't want to do a dark fantasy game. It's not what's, it's not what's hitting right now. What's hitting right now is actually coming of age stories." Meanwhile, that's the last thing we need, because we're pretty much relying on the indie space to bring back those older, better ideas and game styles that we used to have before every studio started walking on eggshells. The indie space is basically the final frontier. It has the capacity to outdo AAA releases, and that freaks out people with power in that branch. I don't know if Megan Ellison is one of them, or if she just genuinely wants to fund crap that she likes. I hope that's the case, but ultimately I don't know. What I do know is that this isn't unique to her either. We've seen even big publishers trying to dive into indie in some form or another. Like for example, don't forget that Ubisoft last year released an indie Prince of Persia game. They called it indie, even though they were publishing it. Indie is doing really well right now. It's the one thing that still garners some semblance of respect, tolerance, and goodwill from gamers after these major companies and big dick investors ruin their reputations in AAA, and I think that's why they like to do this kind of thing. I think that's why they want to try and break into indie. They want to launder their reputation through the indie label, and it just worries me sometimes. But anyway, I'm going to cut it here before I rant for another 10 minutes and make the video virtually unwatchable. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, dislike it if you didn't, hit me with any questions or feedback down below, and that's it. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.